dynasties, specifically this research. So there were some names that ended up on the list. Fish was this freaking big. Absolutely ridiculous. Added to the list based on people just saying, hey, look, this team got a bunch of chips. Really wasn't what I thought it would be, I should say, and my memory is better than most. But they would be. But I'll get to that in a second. So after revamping things, I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kind of puts you in a different stratosphere. So there are teams that did not make the list. Head of semi-pro football now in terms of where they went after that, whether they won a postseason tournament, with league championships. So also here's the other. Yeah, I have good presence. So anyway, off the soapbox on that one. So let's get to this Dynasty Dream season. Anybody have any commentary? Please let me know. Cool. All right, so in the first matchup of the Dynasty Dream season, let me go because I do have some upsets, and I know I'm going to get some pissed off people. It's good. You'll get over it. Because I didn't want to go straight, the ones beating the fours and the twos beating the threes, because after looking at some film and doing some research and stuff, I think there might be an upset or two, but let's talk about it. So first we'll go to the New England bracket. And after speaking to a couple people from the New England area and getting some information, hey, what do you think about this particular program versus that particular program? Who do you think would win? We have the Shamrocks versus the Middleborough Cobras. And from top to bottom, it seems like the Shamrocks have the best talent overall, especially up front. The big boys on both offensive and defensive lines would be a little bit too much for the Cobras to withstand. And by the way, the Rock was still the Rock even when the Cobras were running. So in the first round, we have the Marlboro Shamrocks defeating the Middleborough Cobras, the one beating the four. In the 2-3 game, the higher seeds hold serve. Hey, what's up? Congratulations, Bandits. In the 2-3 game of the Boston Bandits versus the Lowell Nor'easter, a lot of people said the Bandits were just those dudes at a time in which football was big-time football. So we're going to go ahead and take the Boston Bandits. Let me show you the bracket. Boop. We're going to take the Boston Bandits advancing as the 2 seed over the Lowell Nor'easter. So that brings us to the next round, second round matchup, Shamrocks versus the Bandits, which that's the Boston Bandits, by the way. So we'll go over that next week in the second round wrap-up. Let's go out to the Northwest. So we got Upstate representing, and the 1 seed Scranton Eagles, which this program is just both folklore, like it's one of those tales of I went fishing and the fish was like this big type of thing. Took a look. There's not a lot of film on them, not a lot of footage. It does seem as though they were beneficiaries of just the sport not being, they had quite a reign, don't get me wrong. They played some talented teams, don't get me wrong. But the amount of people that were participating on the level just wasn't quite there. And from what I've heard, the Monroe Sting were absolute beasts. Like, they caught lightning in a bottle and ran off a bunch of championships. So I'm going to go ahead. Hold on for 1 second. Let me just give you the exact information. So Scranton Eagles, 71, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88. So they were basically the team of the 80s and the team of the 90s. Monroe County Sting, 05, 07, 09, 15, and 16. So Monroe County was playing, 5 championships compared to 15 is daunting. However, the 80s, I can't get them. So anyway, long story short is Scranton gets upset in the first round, gets bumped by the Monroe County Sting. So the 4 beats the 1 to advance to the second round. In our next game in the Northwest region, we have the Albany Metro Maulers taking on the Buffalo Gladiators. Gladiators, late 90s, early 2000s, they went on a run. Pretty impressive run as well. Albany, though, this would pushed Albany over the top in winning this first round matchup. Albany played the Seminoles. Albany traveled and played competition, and from a national standpoint, playing nationals, I got to give them the nod because they were playing outside of their league, tougher competition. So I have the Maulers advancing to the next round. I'll give you the bracket. Boom. So the Eagles get upset by the Monroe County Sting. So the 4 beats the 1. Albany advances as the number 2 seed. They take on the 3 seed in the next round. Boom. Okay. So now we go to the South because, again, most of the people that are going to be pissed off are going to be in the Mid-Atlantic. So in the South, first round we have Chambersburg versus Virginia Crusaders. Virginia Crusaders were kind of like the dark horse. They were a quiet dynasty in that regard, where I didn't even know much about them. And after kind of digging through the records and such, which is very difficult to find, 08, 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014. However, didn't really make the national footprint, didn't make a lot of noise nationally. Chambersburg, however, absolutely did. And Chambersburg, if you see some of the footage against really top competition, including CPP, those boys were different. I mean, absolutely different. Chambersburg is a juggernaut. It's not even close. They beat the Crusaders on their worst day. So the Chambersburg goes on to the second round. In the next matchup, you have the Prince William Monarchs versus CPP. Now, the Monarchs have a national footprint. They traveled very well. CPP did play top competition for a while. However, the one game that I really got to see them play, it was when Brooklyn came to them. And we went out to Little Earl knows the story, Lillet's, I pronounce it Little Tits, Pennsylvania, to take on CPP. So the question is, what is CPP's signature road win? But here's the thing. The Monarchs took their show on the road often. However, they lost a bunch of those games. So I'm going to take CPP. The 2 advanced to play the 1. And, hold on. Boop. There you go. There's the bracket right there. Chambersburg moves on to the second round to play CPP. Again, we'll have the winners of the second round matchups next week. So now we're going to talk Mid-Atlantic. Oh boy, here we go. So start yelling, start screaming, start tantruming all you want. I didn't want to be a homer on this one, and I tried to be as objective as possible. However, all 4 of the teams in the Mid-Atlantic region I've seen play. The Mariners I didn't really see during their heyday, got it, but the Rebels, very familiar with. Knowles, very familiar with. Bandits, very, very familiar with. Coached for the Bandits, coached against the Bandits. Know these teams inside out. So let's start with the Mariners and Rebels. Now, the Mariners, of course, pay homage to Pudgy Walsh, 100%. Going back to the Korean War, those guys have had more time in, and they have more championships than anybody else. 26 to be exact. However, 1960s, it's like the Yankees fans, by the way. By the way, as an Eagles fan, it's really annoying because when I talk about Eagles championships in 1948, 1949, and 1960, New York Giant fans sit there and go, hey, it's not Super Bowl, it's not Super Bowl. Tell me about how many Super Bowls you got. And then literally as soon as spring training hits, they're talking about 26th, 27th-time champion. We won in 1924 and 1928 and 1932. And we were back-to-back in 42 and 43 or whatever all that dumb shit is. Anyway, regardless, Mariners, absolute juggernaut. The 90s, they dominated. Early 2000s, they absolutely dominated. However, who are they playing in the early 2000s? GSFL, they had one big-time rival, which was the Long Island Seahawks. Am I overly impressed by the Long Island Seahawks? I am not. Let's talk about Coach Green's New York Rebels. the Rebels, the Rebels didn't have that many championships. They only won 4 times, 09, 2010, 17, and 19. However, when you look at the teams that they were playing and the reason why, like literally they caught the Connecticut Giants dynasty, and the Connecticut Giants, although longevity, I should say, kept them out of the bracket, that team was a great team. And had it not been for them, the Rebels would have at least one other championship, possibly 2. If it wasn't for the New York Bandits dynasty, the Rebels would have another 1 or 2 championships. If it wasn't for the Brooklyn Seminoles in the 5-star and the MLF, the New York Rebels would have 2 or 3 more championships, possibly 4. So we're literally talking about, the butterfly effect. One little thing in history, if the Seminoles have an issue and close up shop, we're talking about the Rebels running off 12 years of dominance. So it is for that reason, and I'm sorry, but I'm not. I have the Rebels upsetting the number 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed, Brooklyn Mariners, in the first round. You guys will get over it. And again, if you disagree, please make sure you fill out your bracket and offer your opinions on it. So because the Rebels played like 5 dynasties, the Rebels played against like 5 other dynasties, I have to take them over the Mariners. And I know in certain circles that's sacrilegious, but I guess we're just going to have a sacrilegious day. In the 2-3 game, you have the Brooklyn Seminoles versus the New York Bandits. Now, this is a tougher one. Now, if you're a Bandit, you think the Bandits would win this game. And I'm sure Q will come up here, and Earl will come up here, and a bunch of other Bandit Blue guys will come up here and talk about all the times that they have beaten the Seminoles and sent them packing early. And it was a first-round exit for the Noles on their way to, actual, real dudes type of thing, like, right? Real competition or better competition. And for the Seminoles guys, they're going to point out, hey, I was in elementary school when that happened, so why do I care? We're the best. We've ran off 12 years, 99, let's see. Take 99 out for a second, but respect to the Noles for getting it done in 99. 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So they are the team of the 2010s and the 2020s. Bandits are the team of the 2000s when it comes to the region. And head-to-head, the Bandits won. Now, here's the thing, and this I would love to hear a conversation about, especially when the Bandit guys and the Seminole guys wake up this morning, many of which are in Charlotte, North Carolina right now as we speak. The question is, which Seminole team, like you could do, testament to the Seminole program, you could do a bracket of just Seminole teams. So which Seminole team do you think is the best Seminole team? So now if you're talking about the earlier Seminoles teams who went head-to-head with the Bandits got a pretty good argument on this thing. However, I cannot ignore literally dominating year after year after year after year, and it wasn't even close. And on top of it, from a Nationals perspective, 7-time going to Nationals and winning Nationals multiple times. Bandits went to Nationals, I think, twice. Won it once. Here's the thing, though. Bandits' path to Nationals a lot harder than the Seminoles' path to Nationals of late. Because when the Bandits, in the 2000s, I should say, the road to the Nationals, not only did you have to win your league, you had to have a preseason game or two under your belt to kind of get your resume together. And you had to enter the Harvest Bowl or the Metro Bowl, and you had to win. And in those games, there was some very, very tough competition. So that Bandit team played the Predators during their heyday. That Bandit team played the... who else in the national picture? Oh, it was the Predators. They played the Miami Bulls. They played golly, they were playing further competition as well than some of the newer Seminoles teams. Even those MLF teams were playing a little bit larger of a geographic footprint. However, in season, the Bandits were playing in Baltimore and South Carolina and North Carolina routinely, like in league games. Can't really discount that. The Bandits also played against the Maulers and beat the Maulers. The Bandits played against the Connecticut Giants, the Rebels. So they played against some really, really tough competition. However, I'm going to go with the Noles. Noles going on to the next round. Again, you can disagree with me. Played in Atlanta, go to the national championship. Yes, indeed. So that's why a lot of the Bandit vets are going to absolutely roast me for this, but it is what it is. I have the Rebels advancing over the Mariners, and I have the Seminoles advancing over the Bandits. All right, y'all. I'll holla. What's up? What up, what up, what up, what up? It is that time again. Sunday morning. Way too early with Pat. Go Birds. Hope to get it done against Green Bay today. So we'll check in. As usual, let's make sure the sound is right. For the Dynasty bracket again, you may not agree and interested in who you think the best of the best is in our dream scenario. We had some upsets in the first round. Hey, what's up? Good morning, good morning. We had an upset in 2 in the first round, and we'll see if there's another upset or 2 in the second round. Got some feedback on that. A couple people mad that the Mariners got bumped in the first round. I get it. But the debate is what we live for. Not necessarily. If we all agreed on the same thing all the time, life would be pretty boring. Let me put up everybody has the round 1 bracket, right? So let me just, gotcha. Round 1 bracket. The Rebels advanced in an upset over the number 1 Mariners. Again, we did that debate last week. So, again, you can disagree. That's what's up. Chambersburg and CPP, they advanced to the second round. There was some chatter between Chambersburg and CPP, which is going to be settled today. And I know there's going to be arguments about that. But again, everybody is more than welcome to their opinion, and that's what's great about this thing. Monroe County Sting scored the upset over number 1 seed in their division. You got the Maulers advancing along with the Shamrocks and Bandits. And keep in mind, again, I don't claim to be right. However, I did consult with some of the more well-known experts in those areas to say, hey, look, what do you think about this team and that organization playing? Who is the better organization? And more importantly, why? And I got some really good input from a bunch of folks. So that was that. So now we have our second round, and I'm going to get right to it because we started on the other side of the bracket last week and saved the Mid-Atlantic to last. Rebels versus Noles. Well, with the Rebels versus the Noles, this one should be a relatively easy one. Very little debate in this one. We're going to have the Noles advancing over the Rebels to get into the Final Four. Reason being is because the Noles actually beat the Rebels head-to-head more often than not. Again, those Rebels are an organization. Shout out to Coach Green, by the way, and those guys, Nooch, all those guys, creating a product in the Rebels that, those dudes were a juggernaut back in the day. They really were. Even before and after the Legree years, the organization, top-notch organization, great football team. They had that amazing running back. Oh my God, his name's eluding me right now. I should be better. My apologies on that. Way back in the day, I think he even was in an NFL camp. I'm forgetting his name. Frankie, that was his name. That dude was legit. He was very, very tough to tackle and very, very tough to, especially coaching defense with the Bandits, trying to figure out how to keep his yards down was a trip. So, but on the other hand, again, the Seminoles are what the Seminoles are, 100%. So the Seminoles advance onto the Final Four, the semifinals, and on the other side, the South bracket, we have. Now I know there's going to be a lot of chatter about this one, and I'm all for it. Chambersburg over CPP. I think Chambersburg assembled the best team that we ever seen on this level. Personal opinion. They also have the longevity. So I know CPP guys, they're going to be out here. I know I'm going to get the Ron Kerr. Shout out to Ron Kerr, by the way, legend, goatness as well. I know I'm going to get the Ron Kerr tags. Like, look at what this guy is doing. This is a travesty. I get it. I'm all for it. Explain why. Explain why. Explain why. I know you got the best of Chambersburg a bunch of times. I can't get over the film that I saw. I really can't. That Chambersburg team was on another level. Chambersburg championships in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 2000s. Again, no knock, because these are all great teams, great organizations. CPP, I've seen them live and in color when they played the Seminoles. Ran things in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then 2011, 12, 13, and 14 ran them off as well. Longevity gives the Cardinals a little bit of an edge as well, but you can't go wrong with either. I'm going to be honest with you. You definitely cannot go wrong with either. Let me see if I may or may not be seeing the comments, so just comment that you hear me. I'd appreciate it. Moving on. Assuming that you hear me. If not, we'll do it again. No biggie. In the next bracket, the Northwest bracket, Albany Maulers over the Sting. I got a lot of really good feedback about this Monroe County Sting and that they were a great organization that many people they forget about. They really do. And big shout out to those guys. But Albany, and again, there are people that could disagree. That upstate team that actually was more, they were a beneficiary of the beginning of the social media era, played in nationals, had more of a footprint and a presence when it came to social media and the internet or what have you. Film was out there on those guys. Great football team. And again, as advertised, the Albany Maulers were an absolute fantastic team. Also, again, I could be wrong on this. I don't think I am, but I could be. They were one of the first teams to actually have players like travel from the city all the way up to play for them because of the type of organization that they were. I remember that was the first time that I heard, wait, they got a dude from New York City or a kid from Brooklyn going all the way up to Albany to play football. Is crazy to me. That was the first time it happened, and it kind of set a trend. Again, you can disagree. I'm all for it. Just explain why. Cool. And the last part, Shamrocks advancing into the semifinals over the Bandits. Shamrocks, again, tough that they are closing up shop this year. Maybe more of an homage to them. But the Shamrocks storied program, not only 20 championships, but the quality of football that those guys play. Traveling to nationals, traveling down to Florida, they beat the Seminoles head to head. You can't ignore that. That kind of puts them over the top. The Bandits, their heydays have passed, and their more recent past has not been as great. But they're a competitive team, even in the later years or what have you. I just don't think that they have the horses to beat the Shamrocks, especially up front. And the fact that they've played each other in the ECFL for the past couple of years, and the Shamrocks have gotten the best of them. I don't think you could debate that much. So in our Final Four, we have the Knowles coming out of the Mid-Atlantic, the Maulers coming out of the Northwest, the Chambersburg Cardinals coming out of the South, and the Shamrocks coming out of the North New England area. So that's my take on it. Again, let's debate. Let's have the conversations. No problem. I'm checking the viewer requests. There are none, so you guys all agree with me. Probably not, but let's go with that. Moving on, we have our Dynasty Dream season. So we had our brackets set up, and let me bring you over to the bracket real quick. Now, the bracket last week, we ended up with our final four. Now, I'm just going to get straight to the point here. So we have the Knowles, the Maulers, Chambersburg, and the Shamrocks in our final four. And who do I have advancing? I have Chambersburg advancing against the Knowles, and I have the Shamrocks advancing against Albany. Now, again, you absolutely can disagree with me, 100%. In fact, please let me know why you disagree with me or what you would have and what the reasons are. Here's the thing. So, Seminoles, let's go to that first matchup Seminoles versus Chambersburg. Seminoles, no doubt, in terms of their dynasty. So we're not talking about anybody who is a subpar team. Definitely not. I gave Chambersburg the edge. I've been looking at Chambersburg film, and they are a different breed, a different animal altogether. Some people brought up compensation of players, which in itself is a um, interesting argument. Whether you are playing against more of a professional, and big shout out to Duncan and his PFA who went undefeated yesterday in nationals, which I'm going to get to in a second. He refers to semi-pro as professional advancement football, so that's what he refers to it as, and the different degrees of professionalism could be presentation. It also could be in terms of compensation of players. So the traditional minor league or semi-pro, as you know it in this area, is more of a pay to play. And in fact, some leagues actually have rules that you cannot pay players. Some leagues have rules that says you cannot compensate players. Difference, but we're not going to get into the legalese this morning. We'll save that for another day. So I do have Chambersburg advancing over the Knowles. I think just across the board, Chambersburg just has too much consistency for the Knowles, like in terms of 11 on 11. Just my take on it. On the other side, and again, for those that don't know the Chambersburg Cardinals, a lot of people that know the Chambersburg Cardinals knows like the later end of their dynasty, which was the mid 2000, well 2000s, early 2010s or what have you. But Chambersburg won their first championship in 1969. So historically speaking, they got a little history on the Knowles too. But again, love Knowles, rep New York always. By the way, big shout out to Fordham. Had my little girl's 8th birthday there yesterday for the women's basketball team, and they did an awesome job. If you get a chance, make sure you support your local college teams and what have you. They really appreciate it, especially if they're not Division One. Well, actually, Fordham is Division One, but if they're not like one of those like Power Five, like big time schools, they definitely appreciate your business and appreciate the attention that you um, give them. So on the other side of the bracket, we have the Maulers coming out of the Northwest playing the Shamrocks coming out of the New England region. And I got to give the nod to the Shamrocks on this one. They just have too much for too long, to tell you the truth. And they have been a full tilt machine for decades. And everybody in the New England area, nobody that I spoke to could even kind of like bat an eye and say anything like how the Shamrocks could improve or any like a chip in the armor, so to speak, from the 1960s all the way up until 2021. So it's only right, I guess, in the season in which they stop operations that we give them the honor of getting into the championship game in our Dynasty Dream season. Again, make sure you check out Pioneer Sports and yeah, make sure check out pioneersportsinc.com, and you could check out the bracket and also get a couple links in terms of history of semi-pro football, minor league football, and get a little bit of context to it. Because of course, the easy thing to do is to just say that your team is the best and the best ever without even doing any research on it. But might want to try something different. Dynasty bracket. Dun, 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 dun. Last we saw the Chambersburg Cardinals versus the Marlboro Shamrocks. So when you are looking at these two teams, the Shamrocks have the history. The Shamrocks, I mean, the timing on it is pretty crazy because the Shamrocks are now no more. We've just seen the last year of Shamrock football. But when you have a matchup between two Titans like this, Chambersburg Cardinals, 13 championships, super competitive team, and they do have the amount of championships, but in terms of the actual strength of the team, like how great some of these teams were, like per year, that's what really has surged, that particular brand, where people still talk about it years and years later about how great that team was, even so much that they talk about, whether the players were paid or they were housed, the rent was paid and what have you. So, but taking all that stuff out, because ultimately, again, if you played, you played. That's a very powerful team. Their offensive line was exceptional, one of the best offensive lines, actually the best offensive line I've seen on this level. And then on the other side, you end up with the Marlboro Shamrocks. They have 20 championships, and they played some big league competition. AAA in terms of their league, because they played a number of years in leagues that designated AAA, AA, single A. So as opposed to in many other places where AAA, AA is assigned by somebody who doesn't really know the teams or know much about the sport in general, you end up having in the New England area, which is one thing that I absolutely give them credit for, is that the teams knowingly and willingly go into divisions. So it is AAA football, no debate. So you're ending up with a schedule where you are playing all AAA teams. So that to me pushes them over the top, over the rest of the bracket, because their schedule from start to finish over the course of those 20 championships, I think they were playing tougher competition from game to game. And then on top of it, after they won the championship, these were the teams that were going through a bracket in order to get to nationals. So for those of you may not know, especially the younger guys out there, when you won your league, I'm going to say way back in the day, this is literally a system that was destroyed, I think, in maybe 2012 or 2013, where teams started to not have to play in tournaments. So, getting kind of scattered, let me get back to the point. Relatively recently, what you had to do once you won your championship of your league, you had to go into a bracket, and that bracket you had to win at least two games. Usually it was two games in order to get to the nationals. It was not I'm a league champion, so I go to nationals. No, not that at all. It was midway through the Seminoles dynasty where teams that ordinarily would have joined the Harvest Bowl or the Metro Bowl brackets in order to get them to qualify, all this, not all of a sudden, it ended up going from like 3 games to 2 games to, oh, let's just play one Harvest Bowl championship game, and then the Harvest Bowl championship game winner goes to Florida, and now it's 0 games go straight to Florida. So you have to give credit to those teams like the Shamrocks that played through a bracket in order to get to nationals, because you're playing other champions and other top competition. They would let maybe like a runner up get in there every now and again. But for the most part, you were playing champion versus champion. So, with that being said, Shamrocks have 20, Chambersburg has 13. And although one or two of those Chambersburg teams would have gotten the best of the Shamrocks, overall, the dynasty champion is the Marlboro Shamrocks. Shout out to those guys. Great program. And I say this absolutely heartfelt, being that we have seen the last of the Marlboro Shamrocks this past year. So at least we're sending them off with some flowers as well. So congratulations. I have in my bracket, and again, you can disagree. You might be right. I don't know. We have all-time champions in the Patterson Dynasty Dream Season bracket, tournament champions all time. Big shout out to the Marlboro Shamrocks, defeating the Chambersburg Cardinals. Great job to those guys. So, and it wouldn't be by much, by the way. It was very, very tough to navigate. So, big shout out to everybody, and I appreciate everybody who chimed in and gave their 2 pennies and their two cents in when it came to what they thought they respect. And again, during the course of the off season, you definitely want to keep yourself busy and stay out of the nonsense and talking about stuff that doesn't matter. And appreciate the game, as John Saplinski said. Have a refreshing take on things.